Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we're going to cover some exciting news about the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant and have a great security leader panel with some fantastic folks from SentinelOne and some of our customers. My name is David Gold. I am our VP of Solutions Engineering and Field CTO here at SentinelOne. And it's pretty exciting that I joined SentinelOne about 5.5 years ago, and this is our fifth year being in the leader quadrant. And it's pretty cool to have been here for each one of those years to see our growth and to see our improvement and to really see that innovation. So, Gartner, as hopefully everybody knows, is one of the premier analyst organizations, and they analyze, the key markets, within technology. And the Gartner Magic Quadrant for endpoint protection platforms, really has evolved over the years. But for those who maybe aren't that familiar with Gartner, they try to rank and score all of the main vendors in a market category and put them into their quadrant. And the goal of the quadrant is essentially to be as high up on the axes as you can and as far to the right as possible. And so if you do that, you're going to be in the leaders quadrant. And to be in the leaders quadrant, it means that you have a very high ability to execute and you have a strong vision for the future. Now, the other quadrants are people who may have executed well, but maybe don't have quite as strong a vision, and that would be the challengers, right? They may be more of the legacy players who have a history of being successful in a market segment, but are maybe getting passed by some of the newer players in the market. And then the visionaries in the lower right are usually younger companies or companies that may have a strong vision, but haven't had a strong ability to execute over the years. And the niche players are the bottom left, where maybe they don't have quite the broad vision or they don't have a high ability to execute, but maybe they're successful in some small segments of the market. So that said, we're incredibly proud to be a leader for the fifth year in a row. And it's a huge validation for us at SentinelOne of not only our vision and our strategy, but our growth and our ability to execute as one of the leaders in the space. So if you look at this year's quadrant, you can see, the leaders are probably the ones that you've heard really dominating the space, and it's quite interesting because 5 years ago this chart looked quite different, and there was a lot of different vendors on the chart, and we've really seen the leaders separate themselves from the rest of the industry and the rest of the pack. I mean, there used to be 30, 40, 50 different vendors, it seemed like, competing in the endpoint space. And now, we're really down to three real dominant vendors. And for us at SentinelOne, we're really proud of this year's report because we feel like they really highlighted what makes SentinelOne strong in the endpoint space. And the first two things there are really around AI, behavioral-based models. These are core parts of our DNA that we've been doing since day one. We were the first endpoint vendor to take that behavioral-based approach and to leverage automation for detection and response workflows. So this has really been, core to SentinelOne's DNA and where we've led a lot of that innovation. Gartner did highlight some other things that we're proud of this year, including our modern intuitive user interface. We hear this often from customers. Your product's easy to use, easy to understand, and our new Singularity Operations Center interface really brings together SIM and endpoint and cloud and lots of different technologies that we offer, all from that single user interface and single platform. They also highlighted our single lightweight agent. We're seeing a lot of drivers to help reduce the number of agents that customers deploy in their environments. We're delivering more value to our customers in terms of the capabilities of our endpoint agents, the things that we can replace and consolidate, all from that single lightweight agent. And really our move into being a much broader platform, delivering more value to our customers from that single console, that single data lake, and that single agent. And they highlighted our flexible deployment. Many vendors deliver via the cloud, and of course that is our dominant delivery mechanism. But we have flexible deployment models that allow customers for air-gapped or on-premise types environments to be able to deploy an on-prem management console. And Gartner really highlighted that as a key differentiator for SentinelOne. So we're very proud of the things that Gartner highlighted, and we're very proud of a lot of our capabilities and innovations over the years, and are really striving to deliver as much value as we can to our customers from our platform. So as part of that platform strategy, SentinelOne really is moving beyond just the endpoint. I think a lot of customers, when they think SentinelOne, they think, oh yeah, they're an endpoint, they're an EDR. And Gartner validates that we're one of the leaders in that space, and we continue to make a lot of investments in that space. And being, the most efficient, effective endpoint product out there. But we're also trying to deliver more value, as I mentioned, to find and protect endpoints from attacks. And that includes expanding into things like identity security. That includes the ability for the endpoint agent to collect more log data, from the system, things like Windows event logs. That includes vulnerability scanning and network discovery, and remote forensics, and lots of different other capabilities that traditionally have required people to deploy another agent onto their endpoint. So we're really trying to deliver as many capabilities as we can from that unified agent, and to cover as many different platforms as we can, from broad legacy OS versions across Mac, Windows, and Linux, to other mobile and other types of platforms as well. So we're really trying to deliver that value. We've also always focused on AI and machine learning from day one. We were the pioneer, as I said, for behavioral based detections. And we're really taking that to the next level with things like Purple AI, and our hyper automation that really allow us to now use the power of AI and machine learning to not only find threats, to be able to hunt through your data faster, but to be able to respond and recover, much like our one-click rollback that we pioneered back in the day, but now taking that kind of automated response actions, across the network. So we're incredibly excited about where we're headed as a company. We think this latest Gartner report really hammers home, some of our core strengths, and, really proud and thankful to, the entire SentinelOne team and all of our customers, for helping us get to where we are today and for being a part of this journey as we move forward. So just to kind of wrap up those key differences, I think I've touched on all of these already, but that unified agent is a key reason why we can deliver more value to our customers. We can consolidate tools, we can reduce operational overhead, and we can do that all from that single lightweight agent. Using our behavioral AI, Purple AI, we are really pushing forward on leading the industry in terms of how we use AI. And I think it was interesting that Gartner didn't mention AI a ton, in this year's report. But we think that AI really needs to be considered a fundamental part of endpoint automation, needs to be a fundamental part of any sort of response action. And we really need to have the tools start linking those things together. And that's where that storyline technology, another innovation we've pioneered, that automatically takes all that data off the endpoint across clouds, identities, whatever that might be, and linking that together into kind of a single event. So it's easy for an analyst to see the entire flow of what happened, see all the forensic data in a single view, and then to be able to, with a single click, remediate or roll back or recover that system. And doing this across all the different platforms that our customers need us to support, even ones that are no longer supported by, even Apple or Microsoft, some of the OS vendors. So we really have some key differentiators here at SentinelOne, but of course, don't take my word for it. We're, I think, going to transition now to the more exciting part, where we can really hear from some practitioners and some users of the platform who have looked at the other options out there. They've used SentinelOne, and they've, realized that SentinelOne is the best tool and the best partner for those organizations. So I'm going to hand it over now to Doug Vondera, who is our field CISO here at SentinelOne. But Doug previously was a customer at two different organizations. And he's going to be joined today for a conversation by John Lemko and Ryan Priest. So Doug, I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Very much appreciate that introduction. So, as Dave said, my name is Doug Bondere. I am one of the field CISOs here at SentinelOne, and we have a great group here to have a good conversation with regards to the Gartner Magic Quadrant. There we go. So, again, see me there on the left. A little bit of background of myself. As I said, I'm a field CISO here at SentinelOne. I'm a relatively new field CISO. I have 15 plus years in the healthcare, IT, and cybersecurity uh, domains. I most recently was deputy CISO at McLaren Healthcare, and prior to that, I ran enterprise security architecture for Ascension Health, and have been at a couple different healthcare organizations prior to that. So leading up to about the 15 years there. I'm going to be your moderator for today. And we have a couple of fantastic guests that I will let introduce themselves. We have John and Ryan, and very excited to be able to have them provide some of the insights surrounding their use of the Gartner Magic Quadrant as we go through this conversation. And we learned a little bit about the use of this and the value associated to making some informed decisions about cybersecurity products. So, John, you're first up on the list. I'll go ahead and kick it over to you for an introduction.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, so John Lemko, I'm Director of Security Operations here in Canada for a large credit union. I've got about pushing 20 years of IT and security experience. Most of my time has been spent in the industrial control system, compliance world, but I spent about 2 years in my current position. It's thrown right into the fire or the deep end coming in. One of the first projects I was assigned, or my team was assigned, was to replace a failing endpoint protection system, and really happy we went with Sentinel-1 at that time. But yeah, excited to be here. Thanks, Doug.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Ryan.
Yeah, g'day, Doug and John, and it's nice to be here today. Name's Ryan. I'm the Chief Information Officer for an Australian organisation over here called Verdo. I've got about 20 years experience in IT. Actually started my career at a credit union over here at John. I've worked in engineering roles in the mining sector, a lot of work in healthcare, sort of a little bit in all over the shop actually. And I'm lucky enough now to be part of Verdo, which we provide a lot of different services for the vulnerable community. And we're a large organisation doing a lot of great things. So excited to be here today.
Thanks, Ryan. Greatly appreciate that. Like I said, looking forward to this conversation here. We have a lot of diverse experiences on the panel here. Looking forward to diving in. So, that being in, we're going to go ahead and start with the use of the Magic Quadrant. So I know myself, I have utilized the Magic Quadrant multiple times, many times in the past with regards to different projects for different areas of cybersecurity. In my perspective, I think the Magic Quadrant has been very, very helpful with regards to helping to give a good starting point and a good overview of each of the different areas of cybersecurity. I found it very, very helpful, especially with some of the areas that I might have been a little weaker in overall, since we all can't know everything, right? Those weaker areas, I found it to be very, very helpful with regards to that. So, John and Ryan, but we'll start with John. What do you think with regards to your experiences of using the Magic Quadrant in each of your decision-making processes?
Yeah, I love using Gartner's Magic Quadrant. I personally use it as a way to orient myself at the beginning of the process, help identify major players that need a closer review. It's really hard to filter through, 20 or 30 different vendors and try to pick the ones that you want to take a closer look at. Um, never really use it as a final tool. So, if someone's as high up in the upper right quadrant, that's not a default win, right? It's there's a lot that goes into it, but it's a nice way to filter and maybe focus on two or three vendors. And then you can kind of use, overall fit with your environment, including how it integrates with existing systems, the cost, proof of concept, and value demonstrations, chatting with industry partners and stuff like that. But it's a great tool to use to orient yourself at the beginning. One
I
other note
agree.
I get, after you make a decision, it's also nice to see and track year over year how how the tool you selected is doing and whether they're, moving in the right direction on those magic quadrants, or if they're falling back and someone else is maybe taking over.
Great points. Great points. I know that I've seen that same thing, and I kind of find that when a organization or a vendor is doing well, you can feel that they're doing well with your day-to-day experiences with it. And then I feel that when a vendor may be having a little bit more of a difficult time, and that year over year, if they are moving away and maybe in a bit of a negative way from where they were, that also kind of expresses itself in the day-to-day. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I'm concurring with a lot of our key points there. I know for me, I like to use it as a strategic tool, to be honest with you. There's nothing better than using it during a business case when you need to request an absolute bucket load of money to make a significant investment. It's just that little bit of firepower, isn't it? But look, everyone can agree Gartner is a trusted source, often usually unbiased, quite factual in the way they go about things. And look, it really does help during the vendor selection process from, current capabilities, emerging technologies, sort of where they sit with their competitors. Look, it's a strategic tool for me.
Yeah, there's nothing better than when you are going to go make that case that you can point to, this is a lot of the reason on why we are going down this route. It's not just our own internal testing. It is not just our own internal view, but from an industry leader, if you will, this is their opinion as well. And this is why we're making this decision. I think it really provides that support necessary in those business cases. Oh, that's awesome. All right. So this is one of the things that all of us as leaders have always had to deal with, and I feel like it's continuing to be one of the greatest challenges that we have out there. The balancing of cost cutting, because obviously money doesn't grow on trees, right? And there's probably some consternation already about security spend as it is from many organizations out there. I lost track of who I called on first, so Ryan, I'm going to go back to you there with this. What do you see with regards to how you balance those risk and requirements and being uh, fiscally responsible?
Yeah, like this is one of the hardest parts of probably my role, any CIO roles, perhaps. Especially in our organization, who our customer base is actually large government organizations, and as a result of that, we have to adhere to some pretty complex compliance requirements. We have, our standard ISO 27001 compliance requirements, but we also have a compliance mandate over here called Right Fit for Risk, which is a department specific compliance mandate. And what it essentially is it's a combination of over 500, 600 ISM controls. Essentially, that's the equivalent of the American NIST. So it's just, I guess, a different form of that. However, where it's funny for us is that we have to meet all the requirements. We can't not meet them, which means that we can put our contracts at risk of not meeting the deed requirements. So we're in a position where we have to have high levels of cybersecurity and all the management overheads that go with that. So when we talk about balancing cost cutting, yeah, it sends shivers down your spine, right? Because the minute you're told, okay, we've got to pull the budgets back a little bit or whatever the story is, I try not to impact the cybersecurity stacks because the reality is information security and cybersecurity, they're almost intertwined as one element now. And you need to be on the forefront with your technology and your innovation and even your teams and your resources to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of these compliances that we have, and even best practice as well. However, I know with Sentinel One, there was some really funny things that we had in our compliance. One example was when we spun up the XDR platform. I can't remember what the standard data retention was that came with that platform, but we had some requirements where we needed over a year and a half worth of standard XDR logs, and I wouldn't say it's an overly complex defense in depth strategy, but we definitely have a tailored defense in depth strategy where We're essentially now using S1's XDR to provide that ingress across so many different platforms, with the obvious ones like Microsoft 365 and Entra and Azure and things like that. But we've got a lot of others. But the sheer volume of log retention that we're mandated to have really played in to the security needs. And the reality is, when you're starting to deal with large volumes of data, you can't cost cut. Because if you cost cut, things just aren't going to work. And especially when the team needed to do a post-mortem, or when the team needed to do threat hunting activities, if you don't have the information to threat hunt, you can't do it. So we had a lot of challenges around there. But yeah, look, once again, security remains a priority for us, but efficiency is more important. So I will find other areas of the budget that I can pull back on, and I always try to hold as best I can with steadfast with this cybersecurity elements.
You just described so much of my last number of years. I absolutely love it. I love it. John, I have a feeling you're going to be right in alignment here. I'd be interested with your industry and your location, with regards to maybe some of those different compliance driven things that are part of your requirements, and balancing that, of course, with the fiscal responsibility, and maybe taking advantage of the platform in order to meet those.
Sure. Ryan did a good job at talking about the compliance drivers and stuff like that. I'll probably take a bit of a different angle on this. Our core business relies on customers and our clients' confidence in our banking platforms and our ability to protect their sensitive information, protect their financial assets. So our executives are very sensitive to that. Um, that being said, they don't give us a blank check to do whatever we want with, right? So it's always important for me and my team and the other security professionals around me to tie our security spend with risk reduction. And also, look at opportunities for efficiencies, invest in platforms, potentially reduce tool sprawl, which I know that's part two of this sort of question, but it's a big challenge. You get 10, 15 different tools, all with different dashboards, don't talk well to each other. It takes a lot of time to keep those tools up to date. It keeps a lot of time to um, train your staff and keep on those tools. And yeah, then you balance that a little bit with like avoiding vendor lock-in on a single platform. You
Mm,
go all one way, and then you're kind of locked in, and you're kind of stuck unless you do a multi-year project to move away from it. So um, it's always a challenge. Fortunately, we're in a industry that takes security quite seriously. You don't want to be a financial institute on the news with major security breaches, lots of lack of trust, and that's important to what we do. So
Yeah, and it's so hard to gain that trust back if it happens. It's hard enough to demonstrate your operations in a way that is earning it in the first place, because of how cybersecurity sits in the background so much. But once you have one of those very visible incidents, it is so difficult, and there is a very real curve before things begin to recover there. So yeah, there's real consequences associated with this. Oh, this is a great one. I cannot wait for both of your answers with this. What keeps you up at night? For me, it's my young kids. They like to come into my room and wake me up in the middle of the night, and I can't get them to stop. But that's a whole different story. That's not related to cybersecurity. I wish there was some things I could utilize from there to stop that from happening, but a whole different thing. So, John, let's jump back to you. What keeps you up at night, my friend?
sure, and I sympathize with you, Doug. I've been there, done that. That's tough times. New kids are, getting used to the sleep deprivation was the most difficult for me. But right
Hey,
now
we're in
there's
cyber.
still,
That's what we do, right?
yeah, but yeah, you're right. It prepares you for cyber. So a few things, honestly, are keeping me up at night. One of the biggest that I find right now is just how quickly and how far spread the environment is getting. I come from an industrial control systems background where, you got a nice hard perimeter, one point of entry into all your networks, and those like that's completely gone. You've got like hybrid cloud environments, SaaS applications spread across everywhere, things that, were spun up years ago that, you know, were fit for purpose but never decommissioned. So, just the sprawl of potential threats is really tough to manage. It's not enough to just, you know, say we've got this one security control that's protecting us. It's really difficult.
Yeah,
And
that
then
sprawl is huge. Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, and then compound on top of that, every time you get in relationships with a vendor, you got the third party risk. So that
Yes.
what is concerning as well. Because every time you're trusting a vendor with your sensitive data or accessing your systems, you're just increasing the probability or the likelihood of an attack. And you're trusting them to do the right security security practices, and you can do your third party risk assessments, but um, there's a lot of trust involved there. So those things keep me up at night, and then just trying to keep the team happy and engaged and preventing burnout is also top of mind for me.
Yes, that those are spot on. I'll start with the sprawl real quick for that. I'm curious how in healthcare where I specifically spent a whole lot of time, the merger and acquisition aspect of it was gargantuan. Have you had to deal a whole lot of merger and acquisition and then trying to unify that, or have you been lucky enough to not have to go down that route a whole lot?
Yeah, so well, I've only been with my current in my current position for 2 years, but
Yeah,
we're in the middle of a very large merger. They don't call them acquisitions in credit unions.
sure.
It's like you have to do votes and different things. But yeah, we're
Yeah.
we're in the middle of a merger, and that brings its own challenges and own stresses keeping me up at night because now you've got two different environments with two different security controls, two different
Yes.
levels of security maturity, decisions on which tools you'd like to keep, and multiple attack vectors. So yeah, those are certainly challenging times, and that's one that probably will keep me up at night for another year or two.
Yeah. Ryan, piggybacking on one of the points that John said here about third-party risk, I feel like it's been relatively understated outside of cyber leaders. So I'm really interested in your perspective on this, on the impact of third-party risk. I've always referred to it as, it's kind of, you're only as good as your weakest link. I think from a risk perspective, that rings so true with your third parties as well, because the further integration you have and the further connectivity that you have, uh, and really the overall risk, um, that your uh, risk profile that your third parties have, that doesn't that essentially become the floor of your risk profile as well?
Yeah, of course, you can't offload the risk either. At the end of the day, you got to own it. Um, and in terms of what keeps you up at night, I feel like this is one of those questions that any cybersecurity or any technology professional could roll out the magic red carpet and talk about it for days. Other than the little shadow people that are running around the house, apparently that my 5-year-old sees. I have to say, I think it's the evolution of the AI-driven threats, and the evolution of AI as a whole. You got services now like malware as a service, that any Joe Blow can just go pay someone to spin up. and act as a threat actor without really knowing what they're doing. But coming back to your point, Doug, you're absolutely right, because there was a recent story over here in Australia that actually was quite interesting, where there was a large not-for-profit. I won't say who they are, but they're well known in Australia, and they were outsourcing all their marketing efforts. Where they ring companies and ring individuals and they try to get donations. They outsource that whole thing. Now, unfortunately, and this is where it gets really interesting, is that they had been using that outsourced organization to procure their donations and clientele for many, many, many years. And this organization had a whole heap of archived information. Anyway, that outsourced provider had a data breach, and as a result of that, it was over, like 1 million plus individuals' personal information was leaked. But what actually happened there was the reputational damage that the organization got hit by was just insane. Like, I think it actually did nearly wipe them off the business community as a whole. But people would not donate anymore because they were just scared to do it. So coming back to your question around third party risk, and you're absolutely right, because you can't just offload your risk to a third party and expect it all to be well and true, especially like organizations that are using MDRs or other related services. At the end of the day, you own the risk. And I know with our organization, if there's one thing that keeps me up at night is and touch wood, like if we ever did have a huge data breach, there are so many moving parts in our organization where we're aligned with sensitive information that we're dealing with from the public domain, large, government entities and things like that. I worry about the reputational damage, to be honest with you, and what that means for us. And to be honest, can we bounce back from it? That's the big question. And then how many staff are we putting their jobs and careers in the line? Our CEO always says to us, for every employee we have, it's actually more like 4 or 5 employees, because he treats their family members, their wives, their kids as also part of the organization. So although we've got, say, 500 plus staff, we're probably actually more like in the realm of 2,000 in those sort of eyes. It's an interesting way of looking at it, makes it a bit more personal. So from a third party risk perspective, look, we're very vigilant. I'm always vigilant about making sure I'm aligning myself with organizations that have got the right compliances in place. They're showing due diligence towards making sure they've got strong cybersecurity systems in place. We go for all the standard vendor risk assessments. We do interviews with them, and then we try to keep that a tight fit. The other secret to it for us is, like, comes back to that relationship component I talked about earlier, is once you've got good vendors in place, just stick with them, because the process of getting out of them and moving across to more vendors opens up the whole risk appetite or the whole risk profile once again. So pick your vendors, work with them, get to know them, build relationships with them, and just try to stay with them as long as you can.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. John, I see you nodding your head and in agreement on that one. So that's good stuff. All right. So moving to next topic here. Gartner gives its strengths and cautions to participating vendors. And our cautions include geographic strategy pricing and a focus on adjacent product capabilities. What have you utilized, and what are your thoughts with regards to some of the strengths and cautions that Gartner utilizes out there? When you're going through your overall process, how does it impact your views? John, let's jump over to you.
Sure. They're interesting. I wouldn't say in my case the geographic strategy caution is all that relevant. We're primarily English
Hmm.
written and writing, so that one's not as big of a concern for me. But that innovation one, and more our research and development may be going to adjacent products. It's one, I'm interested, and we'll kind of maybe ask some questions to our customer success folks on just how accurate that is. The core capabilities are important to keep evolving, keep building up, and hopefully, you know it's more around we're still spending a lot of time and effort on enhancing the core capabilities of the EDR or XDR platform, and also just expanding that research and development, not just forgetting about it. So it's an area that I'll watch. From what I've seen though, I don't think that there's been a lack of focus or a lack of innovation or research put on the platform, but it's certainly one to watch.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, look, I agree with the geographic concerns are not an issue for us as well. Especially working with you guys, you had a local Australian team, so and we're English as well. We speak the same language, so we're just very far away from each other. But yeah, no issues there. But look, from the perspective of Gartner, I know for me, what it does do is it allows me to ask better questions, but not necessarily disqualifying vendors. I was surprised around the look from a pricing perspective, very competitive. We've had no issues with pricing. It's been a great experience. They've worked with us within our budget realms, helped us best we can. Um, the commentary are not too dissimilar from leaders. I mean, that was a bit of an interesting one. But I know just recently, as we uptook the Central One Cloud Native platform, I always knew that it had the ISO 27001 compliance components built within it. Awesome feature. But I had a very excited cybersec engineer, one of mine, run into my office and he's like, "Hey, it's doing the ISM controls." And I was like, "Get out of here." And yeah, sure enough, we pull it up and you guys had built all the ISM controls into the platform. And I couldn't believe it because I expected NIST and sort of some of the other bigger frameworks to be built within it, but to have the ISM controls in there, I remember saying to him, I was like, there's something there. There's something there that Senator One are not just focusing on, say, the US market. The fact that they build ISM controls and show that they're actively working within other countries as well. And to have the ISM controls, which is an Australian specific control set by the ACSC or the Australian Signals Directorate, was an absolute massive find, and that was a differentiating point from the competitors. So I've never seen someone so excited over a framework, but it's good that the energy was there, right? But and then look, the only last point I have is we value the ability to tailor platforms to our environments. We don't want to work with vendors who are just deploying technology that's not going to shift and move and evolve as we evolve.
No, all wonderful points, and I would like to second that last statement. All right, Ryan, I'm going to come back to you on this one because I believe you mentioned the use of AI. What are you seeing with regards to an adoption perspective, and then from a cyber perspective, what are you seeing from an adoption perspective, and kind of trends along there?
Yeah, look, from my perspective, I'm jealous of the Americans. You guys are so far ahead when it comes to like AI and just the cool stuff. Over here in Australia, unfortunately, we're a little bit behind, especially in our sector. There's a little bit of fear around it. There's a lot of unknowns. I feel like, we're also sort of watching what other organizations are doing and how they're deploying it. However, I'm very much an early adopter of emerging technologies. I'm not scared to have a crack, and I think we've done really well in our organization. We're doing a lot of work with Microsoft Copilot, for example. And we've uplifted, Center One's Purple AI across our XDR. We've got a lot of other AI technologies that we're running with inside the organization. However, we do come with some challenges. Coming back to the compliance piece, we've got to make sure that it meets our processing and local, information storage capabilities, which means unfortunately we can't just go spinning up any old AI for the sake of it, or we put our compliance at risk. But I guess like from the perspective of AI as a whole, there are so many good use cases coming out of it. You've just got to control it, and we're slowly getting there with our frontline staff and some of the work we're doing. But the great thing, as I mentioned earlier, especially with the SentinelOne XDR platform, was the sheer volume of logs we got coming in from the endpoints, server infrastructure, Azure, and all the other, platforms that we've got hooked into the XDR. Overlapping that with the Purple AI was, I'd have to say, a bit of a game changer for us, because no longer are we having to set up these complex filters, these complex search queries, which quite honestly, I just could not be bothered with. That's just me just tapping out with those power queries, to be honest with you. But the Purple AI and those threat hunting capabilities, like in our SOC now, we do our own on-prem SOC. Where our cybersecurity engineers are actively using the Purple AIs to trawl through the XDR logs and find areas that could be raising the red flags and need some bit of love, or focus, I should say. But then you got everything from, automating compliance workflows to freeing up, and the big one was freeing up the team to get on with the high priority remediation activities, or the activities that deserve their attention. So, look, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of AI, especially in the cybersecurity space. Rewind maybe 3 or 4 years, I think it would have been a hard slog to get to where we were now. But with the rise of, the LMMs, and just how fast and the exponential curve of AI has just opened up a whole world of some great opportunities, especially in the cybersecurity space.
The key is actually using it and seeing it and believing it and hearing stories like exactly what you said with regards to we are realizing the value. And I think that can't be understated enough overall. John, what do you think with regards to this? Are you, really kind of, is your business really looking forward? Are they a little tentative? And then from a cyber perspective, where are you at with regards to your use of AI, and how has it, made a difference for you in your day to day and your team's day to day?
Yeah, I mean, yes to a lot of those questions. The organization is excited, cautiously excited about AI. I know our chief information officer, he is very, pushing as fast as you can in a financial institute. I mean, we're not cutting edge or anything, but wanting to see if we can take advantage of machine learning and AI capabilities, building our own internal models with our tools. And you balance that a little bit with, on the data governance side, where data residency is very important. What's happening with our data? We don't want to be sending sensitive member or customer information to someone else's environment that maybe we don't trust or don't have any relationship with. So there's balancing that. I'd say me and from the security team, we're still at a early stage of AI adoption. Definitely prioritizing tools that have AI capabilities. I know we looked at Purple AI. Sometimes it's tricky to write the business case. I know vendors need to monetize on their AI investments, but I really like being able to type plain query languages in and get
Hmm.
results. You have 5 or 6 different tools, 5 or 6 different query languages, and unless you're in those tools daily, it's really difficult. Whereas, Purple AI, you can have a conversation or ask a question, and it just pops up or writes the query for you. So huge value in that. Easy for new staff to use. I still think we're pretty early on as an organization or as an industry around AI adoption in the security field. I am really excited for smarter threat detection and response capabilities. Hopefully there's something coming that reduces amount of false positives, especially when you're talking about SIMs or SOCs. That gets us to that stage where it's like, okay, well, we had 300 alerts or whatever, but this is the one you need to action, and here's what we suggest. So that's what I'm really looking forward to in AI. So I know the bad guys are using it as well on their tactics and techniques. So it's always tricky to stay ahead of them.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. And this is such a great conversation because you have and this is very, very normal right across industries, individual viewpoints on it. I mean, Ryan said I'm an early adopter of technology. I want to jump in and take a look at this overall. But I also know that in the financial industry, that oftentimes that can be a little conservative. Healthcare was the same exact way. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not so sure about this. Maybe let some others test it out. Everybody's individual journeys are going to be different throughout this. But I will throw out your last point there, John, and that is the bad guys are using it now. So while we do have to, be very aware that everybody's a different point on their journey, here, the bad guys don't care. So,
Mm.
I think we're going to be moved that way one way or the other. It's just a matter of time. So, all right. Thank you so very much. This has been a phenomenal conversation. The fact that we have such a great group to work with and to be able to provide this information and views out with this broad audience. I can't thank you enough for your time. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Sure thing.
Thanks.